Hello, welcome back to Chat About It, Don't Shout About It with me, Rachel, the Queen of the Woke, as crowned by one of my haters. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you to everyone who has joined me already. I couldn't do this without you. Today is TikTok Tuesday. We'll be looking at some reactions for the Acolyte on TikTok today. However, before we get into those TikToks, let's cover some other things to do with the Acolyte, such as the fact that there's a rumor going around that there may not actually be a second series. And you know what? I think it reflects itself and the audience's opinion in the tomato meter score or the tomato meter score. This is, of course, from Rotten Tomatoes. It is still scoring at this time of recording 14%, and the average tomato meter is 84%. Now, according to some news articles that we're going to get into a little bit later on, this would make them racists, bigots, and T-phobes, apparently. That's the kind of attitude storyline that we're going with. Now, just because you don't like something doesn't actually make you that. You are actually allowed to not like something. I've said this before on my channel, and you are allowed to like it if you want to. And you are open, I think, with any form of entertainment to criticism if you make it. And you can either take that on board, you can disregard it, or in this case, you can react to it. And sometimes it's how you react to it that actually creates the issue. And of course, you could say that with the critics of the show as well, the ones that you call bigots, racists, and T-phobes. But, here we go. So Joe would be considered a bigot, perhaps, or a racist or a T-phobe. Too many holes in the story. Main story point, in my opinion, weakens the original canon of Anakin. Fair enough. Just overall, not the best storyline. Personally disappointed, but have not been with much of Disney Star Wars. But Todd wouldn't be considered one of those at all because Todd just so happens to like it. The show to me definitely shows a side of the Jedi we haven't seen in past Star Wars movies or shows. And then Anonymous would definitely be down there with the bottom of the bottom. One of those who wouldn't even be considered a fan at all. Illogical, silly script that contradicts itself, cardboard characters, unclear motivation of the characters. The movie contradicts canon and contradicts itself. This is the worst movie of the entire Star Wars saga. Now, this is according to Rotten Tomatoes or Rotten Tomatoes, depending on where you're from. But if we actually have a look at FlixPatrol, it is still doing pretty well in accordance with the minutes. And, well, they're still not really shouting this from the rooftops. They did it once and haven't gone back to it. 550 million minutes viewed, and it's still rating as of this month. Disney Plus is number one, but it's 4.9 out of 10 on IMDb. Now, I do believe that when you create something, you are open to criticism, be it good or bad or in between. You are open to that. So it's up to you how you take that on board. You can either say, okay, well, people don't like it, and that's absolutely fine. Or you can take it, learn from it, apply it to your next season or your next piece of work. Or you can get into a culture war with them. And this is essentially what's going on. If we look at Samba TV, this tells you a lot. So these two are the only times that it has actually charted. We've got one from the June 3rd to June the 9th. It came in at number 7, and then June 10th to June 16th. That came in at number 8, and that is, of course, based on household reach. And I just want to thank my subscribers who pointed me in the direction of this website. I didn't know it existed. Now I do. Thank you very much. Now, Entertainment Weekly interviewed Leslie Headland. I will let you go and read the entire interview. It's actually about the series itself. It is linked in the description below. I always link my sources. This is the headline that they ran with. The Acolyte creator Leslie Headland talks about possible season 2. You mentioned a possible season 2, so not knowing when you crafted this, how many seasons you were going to get, did you craft a firm season finale ending like Obi-Wan Kenobi, or is it teeing up more story to come like the way Ahsoka ended its first season? That is not a greatly worded question, I must admit. And so Leslie says, I'll tell you my philosophy on first seasons. Something that I've noticed is first seasons will end on what should have been the break into Act 2. It feels like everyone's really expecting to get a second season, and I don't feel that's a good idea. I think you should put everything you can into the first season and give the audience a nice resolution that feels satisfying, but enough nods to mysteries that you would want to see a second season. So it's a bit of both. You don't want to leave it so wrapped up that, like Obi-Wan Kenobi or a standalone miniseries, that there's no reason to watch a second season. But I think there's enough stuff in the last few episodes that you would want to have answered. Where are you now in the terms of season 2? Have you written outlines? Are there scripts? Are you just sort of playing the waiting game? Okay, so she mentions a quote that she heard from Vince Gilligan when he was doing Breaking Bad. We're getting 7 more seasons, and this is what's going to happen to Walter White. Here's everything we've got. We're throwing everything at the wall. And then with the pickup, he mapped out, okay, here's what's going to happen over the course of however many seasons. So that's apparently the approach that she's taken with the Acolyte. And she says, I threw everything into season 1 because who knows what's going to happen. And then I'd say there are 4 to 5 major mysteries and plot points that have to get hit in season 2. But until we get a proper pickup, I worry that spending a lot of time in that world, especially being in a period where I've worked for so long on this project that honestly I'm exhausted by it coming out, to kind of jump right into like, all right, season 2. It will probably be more that I know what needs to happen, and I know what the character development needs to be in order to hit the plot points and the character points for a second, third, or fourth season. So I look forward to working on that, but right now I haven't. Okay, so take from that what you will, but the rumor is going around that there isn't going to be a second season based on what she said. Now, what do you think? I think with the low scores for the reviews, that there's a potential that there may not actually be a commission for the second series. However, this is Disney we're talking about. Of course, Pink News weighed in on the action as well. New Star Wars series The Acolyte review bombed by bigots and angry fans amid woke backlash. Now, on the screen here, I have our bigots and review bombers. Well, 2 of them anyway. I find it so interesting that they run with things like this in order to try and defend it. It's not our fault. It's not us that are destroying the canon. It's not us that are just making it Star Wars in name only. If we put in a few battle spaceships and aliens and some lightsabers, that makes it Star Wars. Have you ever considered the fact that it may actually just be that it strips away from actual canon? Or that people just don't want to see the original Star Wars lore destroyed, so they just stop watching? So The Acolyte has been running on Disney Plus for 3 weeks, and it's down to just 13% of user scores, with IMDb rating it at 3.3 out of 10, and 58% of the 66,000 reviewers awarding it just 1 star. So earlier on, I reported that FlixPatrol has got it at 4.9. That needs updating. This one is closer to the actual score. The actual score currently is reading at 3.4 out of 10. I will link that website. It keeps changing. So I will link the IMDb website below for you so that you can check for yourselves at the time of the release of this video. Forbes says the low approval rates are linked to the racism, misogyny. Men, it's all your fault. It's all your fault. Women, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. I must be a misogynist as well. Men, don't worry. I don't believe that for 1 minute. You're absolutely fine. I don't think it's misogyny at all. And overall harassment of the cast, which has seeped into every conversation about this show. Right. I'm sure. I'm sure it has. It also doesn't help that Amanda Stenberg decided to release a rap and basically call us all oppressors and things like that. The series has faced a backlash after casting trans, non-binary, and Black actors. Amanda Stenberg, who plays twin sisters Osha and May, is gay and Black, while Abigail Thorne made history by becoming the sci-fi's franchise first trans actress. I love how they put things like that for Forbes, okay? Remember, this is Pink News quoting Forbes here. It's almost like they forget that these men and women on the screen here, exist and have been in Star Wars, especially the first one, who has also sold his voice to Disney to use for Darth Vader in the future. I mean, come on. And they're making a big deal about Abigail Thorne, who has actually been cast in the House of Dragons season 2, which is actually doing very well in the tomato meter and the audience score. And she is playing amongst other non-binary actors, other Black actors, and gay actors. So I don't understand what the issue is, but because the Acolyte is doing very, very bad, it is all linked, according to Forbes, to racism, misogyny, and harassment of the cast, and also backlash because of trans, non-binary, and Black actors. So then, of course, it goes on to say other stars who identify as LGBTQ+ include Chicago Fire and Arrow actor Charlie Barnett and Rebecca Henderson, who is married to the Acolyte's creator Leslie Headland. The plot itself contains queer themes, with a recent episode featuring a female force-sensitive couple dubbed lesbian space witches. Speaking to the New York Times last month, Headland said, "I stand by my empathy for Star Wars fans, but I want to be clear. Anyone who engages in bigotry, racism, or hate speech, I don't consider a fan." So why is the Acolyte getting hate? Well, the short answer is many feel the show doesn't fit into the rest of the franchise's canon and are unhappy with some of the creative choices being made. And the LGBTQ plus cast. I don't give a monkeys about LGBTQ plus cast. All right, cast whoever you want. The story has to be good. Okay, now it's time to get into the TikTok portion of our show. So what you're about to witness is a deepfake AI of George Lucas reacting to The Acolyte. And this is from GOM Films, and it's on TikTok. I've linked everything below like normal. And I wonder if this actually would get into the mind of George Lucas. But this is fake, just so you know. Okay, here we go.
Wait a second. Is that Kiadimundi? He shouldn't even be alive during this period.
Based.
An apprentice who doesn't know their master. So, could this be a splinter order?
Well, they better not suspect that this girl was trained by a Sith at any point, because when Qui-Gon told the Jedi Council that the Sith may have returned, Kiadimundi said,
Impossible. The Sith have been extinct for a millennium.
well, I didn't think
That's exactly what I thought too.
this was going to apply to this show. Let me get my crayons out here. But Disney has just checked off another box, which is ruining another one of my original characters.
Touche. I would agree. I think Star Wars is now at the point where it's Star Wars in name only. They just call it Star Wars because they put lightsabers, aliens, and action sequences into it.
Oh boy.
You have to kill the Wookiee without a weapon. Your master wants you to.
Yeah.
I did it. We did it.
Why are you stumbling with your words?
Yeah, why?
Have you?
I mean, come on.
You know I haven't. Oh, look.
Look what he just did there. He changed the subject. Clearly, he's the Sith, right?
Can't believe my sister's not.
Is it that obvious?
Nice,
I think so.
Oh, I just got a text from Spam.
If it's spam, why are you writing back?
Spam is the name that I have Dave Filoni saved under.
Is that the one with the bounty hunter hat?
Him?
Yes. I call him Spam because he keeps asking me questions. Like here, he just asked, what is Yoda's species name? Well, I told him that's a secret. Oh, he responded. He said if you don't give us the name of the species, Kathleen said she's just going to name them ovaries. What?
George. This is because the Force is now female. Okay, so that gets into the mind of George Lucas. Please do remember it is fake, but please do and go and give him some love.
The story that George told with the prequels, right, is the fall of this particular group. So to me, I went, well, then what happened right before that? You know, he sort of starts in media res and Phantom, right? Like, and so I went, well, if you went back further, You know, where are the cracks in the system? How can evil start to rise in the way that it does, to the point where literally one of the strongest Sith that ever lived can infiltrate the Senate and none of the Jedi know about it?
Except it didn't exist.
So I think once you can kind of get people into that place, then they're more supportive. But I think,
Yeah, but you're not getting into people into that place, and that's a problem.
when you think you're going to tell the story about bad guys and the Jedi's might be the antagonist to those Jedi's, I think that makes people nervous. But it
course
didn't
it
make
does.
Kathy nervous. And I will say that room, when I pitched her, it
Pitched her.
was probably one of the most exciting things, because it felt like a conversation and less like I was up for a job.
Yeah, because I think Kathleen was just like, yes, Leslie is all about making the Force female. Making the Force female and using the Force for more things and ways than one. If she undoes the history of Star Wars for the benefit of women, that will get more women involved and in love with Star Wars. The guy that's on screen is a bit more like me, more of a casual viewer of Star Wars. So let's listen.
Honestly very curious to know what the writers were when they were creating Star Wars The Acolyte. Because based on what I'm seeing from different fans in the Star Wars fandom, everyone legitimately just hates this thing overall. And honestly, I can see why. But recently, the third episode for The Acolyte dropped, and it's basically ruined the original films with their creative decision. This explaining why.
Yeah, and it says, and now Anakin is no longer special. That's true. The Force can be whatever you want, and lesbians can now give birth to twins without men. I wondered when I saw that if that was Leslie putting herself into it.
Explaining why right here. Now, I understand when it comes to shows like this, everyone's open to something being new, but when it comes to Star Wars, knowing their fandom, it's best you just don't do that at all. Because inherently, the writers have irreversibly destroyed this entire show. Because you just gotta have to ask yourself, why? What was the reasoning? Why does any of this have to happen? Because never once was any of this ever shown in the original Star Wars or the Star Wars projects after it. And if it wasn't elaborated on or shown to the same extent as it was here. If there's anything you should know about the Star Wars fandom, it's the kind of fandom you don't want off. Because stuff like this will in fact happen, and it will make nobody happy. As a low-key Star Wars fan that's kind of there but kind of not, I just have to ask why. Because then you kind of have to ask, how does this help Star Wars in any way, shape, or form? How does this progress the story in a way that is actually interesting to Star Wars fans who've been there since the beginning? And again, this is coming from someone who barely watches it. What exactly was the point? Why was it ever done to begin with? Because now I can guarantee next episodes that come out, the viewership is going to drop drastically. If anything, people are just going to completely write off this show and consider it not canon. I mean, who's to say they haven't already?
I think, in answer to your question, this was a situation of they're just doing it for the sake of doing it. They have full creative control. George Lucas signed into that contract under the guise of believing that Kathleen would actually look after it. And to be honest, from what I've seen so far, The Acolyte, I don't think that's been the case. Like, if it gets to a stage where even casual viewers are going like, what on earth is this? What is going on here? Why are we doing this? Why are we getting into all of this unnecessary unraveling of Star Wars? Why is that really necessary? Then you've hit a snag. You've got a problem. People are being very vocal that they don't like it, and that's fine. They are allowed to not like it. But the question is, where do you start drawing the line? And at the moment, I don't think creators from Disney, and this is my opinion, creators from Disney do not know where to draw the line. They are changing things for the sake of changing the things. They are not listening to the people who actually adore the fandom the most, adore the actual product the most. And don't forget, these fans are also paying customers. They pay to Disney Plus. They subscribe to Disney Plus to see the show that they love and to be nurtured and maintained in the way that they wish it to be. And they're not getting it, so they're dropping out. So that's it for TikTok Tuesday. Tomorrow is Woke Wednesday. If you would like to join me for that, that will be at 4 p.m. Thank you very much for watching this video. Like this video if you would like to like this video. Subscribe to the channel if you would like to. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.